Welcome back to Open BXRx. Earlier, we spoke about the digital divide affecting low income communities. Our next guest founded a nonprofit organization to help support families and organizations through digital strategies, making social connectedness a priority during the pandemic and beyond. Joining us now is Dr. Rose Perry, who is a neuroscientist, physiologist, and the founder of Social Creatures. Welcome, Dr. Perry. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be able to talk to you today.
The first thing I wanted to start off with, of course, is learning about Social Creatures and what made you find this organization at this time.
Yeah, so we rapidly founded back in March when we realized that, we were going to be facing this pandemic and the stay-at-home orders and social distancing for the long haul here. And we're a group of researchers, clinicians, advocates, and creatives who have seen through our own work time and time again how important it is to stay socially connected with others. So when I say social connectedness, I mean feeling connected with another individual, feeling close with others, having a sense of belonging. And we know from our work that it's great for our mental health and for being happy, but it's also really important for our physical health and well-being. So our mission, when we saw that schools were closing and their stay-at-home orders, was to begin bridging science, technology, and advocacy to make sure that everyone could still readily connect with their social support groups, whether that's family or something more extensive, no matter the circumstances. So as you can imagine, that has focused a lot on eradicating inequities related to the ability to connect with social supports outside of the house, because we see, even outside of the pandemic, there's a digital divide, and there are populations that are disproportionately impacted by the digital divide. So for instance, on average, households that are from lower income or lower socioeconomic status are less likely to have a computer in the home or to even have internet access in the home. Or if they do, the internet access does not support speeds or bandwidth to be able to even have a video call like we're having right now. So we're trying to level the playing there and in turn make sure that everyone can stay connected now, and hopefully more so even when the COVID is behind us.
Right. And I know Social Creatures is making a mission to acknowledge that connectedness is a human right. Can we discuss about the importance of acknowledging connectedness as a human right?
Yes, absolutely. So I alluded to it a little bit, but we have seen in our work that connectedness is important for our physical health and well-being. It's not just a nicety. We think of it as a necessity, like having food or access to clean water or shelter, because healthy relationships and having the ability to draw on social support can actually alter our physiology. For example, it can help keep our stress hormone levels at bay. And also, it's a direct link in ways to other basic needs. So when we think about a concept called social capital, we compare that to financial capital, which is money, for instance, that you can use to buy food and water and a home. There's also social capital, which is the value that we derive from social networks. And that includes any sort of social support or services that we can draw upon to help stay healthy, to be feeling our best, and to impart opportunities to succeed in school and in general. When you think about social capital, an exercise that I do with students sometimes is have them imagine what their life might look like if they've never been able to interact with another person. And, that's pretty crazy to think about. It makes you realize how social of a species we are and how much we do rely on one another.
Right. And Dr. Perry, you kind of alluded to it again, but as a neuroscientist and physiologist, can you tell us what can happen in the long term if we lack these things, we lack this connectedness, especially during a tough time like this?
Yes, that's a great question. We have seen time and time again through both longitudinal research and intervention science that individuals who have strong and healthy relationships and the ability to draw on social support are far more resilient in the face of extreme stress or adversity, which many of us are feeling right now in the midst of this pandemic. So, for example, when children are facing adversity, but they have a supportive and sensitive caregiver by their side. That can be a parent or another family member. It can be a teacher, a mentor. They fare much better. And this is true for adults too, and friends, and between romantic relationships as well. They can help keep environmental stress, or at least reduce how much environmental stress can get under the skin to influence physiological development, which can impact things as big as the way that our brains grow and develop. So this is really important, and it's super important that we're ensuring that everyone can still reliably connect loved ones right now, and really beyond too, because our hope as an organization is that we can come back with a stronger normal after the pandemic.
Right. I sure hope so. So earlier, as I spoke in the introduction, we spoke about the digital divide. But we would like to continue exploring how vulnerable communities are feeling through this tech inequality, especially through COVID-19. What has Social Creatures found in regards to the digital divide?
That's a great question. It's a mixed bag of what we found. There's a sadder side to it, and there's a hopeful side to it. So we are finding that if left unaddressed, this crisis is widening opportunity gaps because of this digital divide. So if left unaddressed, we're seeing that populations that are already more vulnerable on average to social isolation are just being further propelled into isolation because they don't have access to tech. But we are also seeing, and I'm not talking about social creatures, we're seeing many people, individuals, organizations, government departments really thinking inclusively and making sure that those who need tech the most are getting that tech in many instances. It's not happening across the board, but it is happening. And for some families and individuals, they're receiving tech in the home and internet in the home for the first time ever. And you can imagine how life-changing that is. So I do see some evidence of hope that although this pandemic is awful for at least some, it's leading to a stronger normal for them.
I know Social Creatures is also spearheading a digital safety net campaign. What does it mean, and what is Social Creatures' goal with this initiative?
Yeah, so we are campaigning right now to create digital safety nets. So when we think safety nets, we can think about just general support, oftentimes social support that we would draw on when we are in need, or when we want a shoulder to lean on or need a shoulder to lean on. And so many individuals across the board have been rapidly disconnected from typical ways to do that because we're stuck at home. So this is especially important for more vulnerable populations who rely on more extensive services like after school support programs and summer camps, just for example, our support groups. So what we want to be able to do is provide them with a digital solution to be able to continue to engage with these services. So the campaign is creating general awareness, public awareness around the digital divide, and trying to build momentum around this. But at the end of the day, our goal is to equip as many people as possible with tech and internet in the home, as well as software or apps that are safe and can facilitate these social interactions and services, including telemedicine services, tutoring services, just general health and wellness check-ins. But yeah, that's the goal of the Digital Safety Nets campaign.
And you also have partnerships. Can you tell us about those with other organizations?
Yeah, so we have two different types of partnerships. We definitely would not exist if it weren't for our partners. We partner with community embedded and nonprofit organizations who are well established and have been longstandingly working with vulnerable populations so that we can best support their efforts and make sure that vulnerable populations are staying connected. So we're helping these organizations transition to their own digital strategies so that they can continue their services. But then we also, it's a two-way street because then we have a really wide network where we can rapidly distribute the resources that we have or that we obtain to those who need it most. And we're constantly being updated and learning about what the pain points are, where the needs are, and can adjust quickly to meet those needs. But we also partner with tech companies to deploy digital solutions, whether that's hardware or software. And sometimes we also work on co-creating digital solutions to some of the more unique challenges that the pandemic is creating. So for example, one of our major partners is the Family Room, and they have a software that it was created originally for children who have an incarcerated family member. So they are leading experts on curating highly personal interaction, high touch interaction between loved ones within the face of distance. So the whole program was designed specifically for being, kept apart. So working with them to deploy their services and to rapidly kind of develop it further to make it useful for other use cases that need it right now, like tutoring support and schooling support in general. But yeah, that's how we're kind of going about getting through some of the harder pain points that we're seeing as we learn about the barriers to connection.
Right. I think it all sounds wonderful. And thank you, Dr. Perry, for finding this amazing organization. How can people get in touch with and provide support to social creatures?
Yeah, thank you. Our website is thesocialcreatures.org. If you go on there, there's a contact form on the homepage. My email's there. Also, there's links to Twitter and Instagram. We are always looking for ways to help. If you're a nonprofit organization or if you're a tech company and you think you have something that you can help us get out quickly, we'd love to partner with you. And also we're fundraising to support these efforts as well. And we have some cute t-shirts and sweatshirts that we're selling, and all the proceeds from that go towards our cause as well.
I love that. Before we go, Dr. Perry, I also wanted to highlight the Creatures Times newsletter that you have on the website. There was an article recently that you co-wrote regarding the importance of students maintaining social connections during school shutdowns. Can you just tell us a little bit about that article?
Yes, of course. So with that article, we really want to highlight the idea that it's super important to make sure that students right now primarily are feeling really socially and emotionally supported right now. So I think it's easy to get really hung up on homeschooling and making sure that you're staying on top of every single lesson or completing every packet. And we're seeing parents and teachers, they're doing such a good job and they're having to juggle so much right now, working from home and oftentimes dealing with childcare. And we just wanted to let them know that, as long as you're supporting your students socially and emotionally first, that's the most important thing. If the child is stressed out dealing with, this is a stressful time, they're not really going to be in a state to be ready to learn that well. And no matter what, when COVID is behind us, because that will happen eventually, kids can catch up academically. They can, and they will catch up much quicker if they come back to school feeling socially and emotionally ready to learn. So it's way harder to overcome any effects of long-term stress or trauma than it is to help a child catch up academically when they go back to school. And that's especially true if they come back to school feeling really socially and emotionally supported. So it's just important to make sure that kids and students are staying connected with loved ones, having play dates, even if they're virtual play dates, which of course to be safe is important. That will really help support them, keep their stress levels at bay, and keep them in a state that's ready to learn.
Thank you, Dr. Perry, for joining us today. And thank you for this wealth of knowledge and sharing more about social creatures.
Yes, thank you so much for having me and for helping me spread our mission. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Folks, to learn more and donate, please visit thesocialcreatures.org and follow them on Instagram at socialcreatures with a Z as written below. Open BXRx will be right back.